It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
I have Aaron Pierson here with me, and he's an entrepreneur, designer, photographer, filmmaker, writer, and podcaster. Dude, I thought I had a lot going on, but man, you're taken to a whole nother level.
Thanks, man.
Aaron actually shares a unique recovery story that I wanted to talk about. As you know, I like to interview people that were part of my process, and I got to know Aaron just right as I was starting Recovery Squared. So Aaron, first I want to thank you for coming on Recovery Squared. I appreciate you and the work you're doing, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm excited to kind of share this part of my life, which I usually don't share publicly. So I'm actually kind of excited to do that.
Man, well, I can't wait to hear more about it. So everyone can go and check out aaronpearson.com for the type of work he does. But I want to talk about his unique recovery story. I really believe that the type of recovery you need in life differs based on where you're at in life. In the beginning, just staying clean and going to meetings worked. But after years of clean time, is that the best way to live your infinite potential? So Aaron, why don't you take me back to your rock bottom and why you entered recovery?
Yeah, man. I would say my rock bottom was actually a series of years. It was from about 2003 to 2006. And I grew up in Michigan. Alcohol was always very common in the family. But, in high school, I dabbled in selling weed and doing drugs and things like that. It really didn't get bad until I moved out to Arizona. And I had been on probation in Michigan and had been to jail there a couple times, but I literally left that state thinking I would do the relocation, right? We're like, okay, I'm going to leave, go somewhere else. It's going to be different there. But what happened was I was actually introduced to much harder drugs out here. And I mean, the stuff I was putting up my nose, it's not even like just your entire life gets ripped away from you. Everything you care about, all of your values, your family, friendships, just personal values, things that you thought, made you who you were, all that just goes to the wayside. And I was pretty much like engaged 100% solely into getting messed up all the time. And I was just really chasing that high. And what ended up happening was I got a DUI, I got another drug possession charge out here in Arizona. And then in the course of 30 days, I got 2 more DUIs. So I had 3 DUIs in 30 days. And the judge just threw the book at me. They saw my record from Michigan. I ended up going to jail for a year in the tent. So if you know anything about Arizona, Sheriff Joe Arpaio is notorious for this jail called Tent City. And they make you wear pink, it's a pink uniform and pink stripes. And you sleep in a tent in Arizona. It was absolutely brutal. But to be honest, Steve, that wasn't enough. I still got out and I still did a lot, but that was definitely my bottom. I think the biggest thing bottom wasn't my environment so much as where I was mentally, and my state of mind was just beaten to a point of no return. Suicide was definitely an option, and there was really no way out. And that was more of a mental state. I think that could happen, not incarcerated. And just for that whole period of time, it was just horrible. It was a horrible, horrible part of my life. But to be honest, again, I don't want to forget about that, because that's really helps define who I am today. That gives me a lot of drive and motivation to create an epic life, epic opportunities for my family, an awesome business, great relationships. I mean, I wouldn't value those things as much, I think, if I didn't go through that initially.
Well, man, I appreciate you sharing that. I can relate to the, running away from your problems, but you realize that you bring all your problems with you, and that's kind of when you hit that real rock bottom. And it's not until you kind of, I guess, surrender it, like, hey, all the things I thought I cared about are gone. And it's kind of like I like to say that, the worst time of my life created the best time of my life, able to flip that. And so, so you're at this worst place of your life, and then what sort of things did you do to get out of that? Like, how did you get out of that mindset?
Well, it all happened in AA. I mean, I was introduced to AA. I had family members in AA before I even knew really what AA was, but I was introduced to it really in jail. And I would go to meetings in jail just to kind of get out of my cell and or my tent, but whatever, my area. And I don't know what happened, man. I think one of the guys just resonated with me, and I'm like, and he was talking about one of his stories, and you can always identify with people better if they share their experience. And he was sharing an experience with me, and I'm like, dude, that's really messed up, man. Like, if this guy can do it, I can do that, right? And he kind of had a couple things going on in his life that was attractive to somebody like me. I'm like, oh, he works for himself, he works from home. I dig that. Like, I've always been entrepreneurial and always worked for myself. So I'm like, well, if he's been able to do this and stay sober and maintain, like, maybe I'll just hang around him a little bit more and see if I can pull some more information from him that I could apply to my life, and hopefully things will get better. And that's kind of how it started. But if you really want to know the answer, like, when I got out of jail, I still subjected myself for a few more months of getting loaded and doing what I do, or doing what I did. And it got to the point where I moved into a halfway house. I had no other place to go. And moving forward, after 6 months of living there, I ended up managing the halfway house, sponsored, probably 10, 20 dudes throughout that whole experience. So it was an amazing experience. But that's really what got me on the right trajectory. That's what opened me up to, this concept of this one universal God. Because before then, I wasn't even really open-minded to that. I wasn't even thinking about that. But AA really did save my life. Even though I do not attend anymore, I attribute everything that I have up to this point for the fact that I was willing to take that first step and go to a meeting and try hanging out with some people that were into different behaviors than I was into.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I can relate to. I really wasn't convinced of the whole recovery thing, and I think I tried every single flavor there was. But there was one, my first real sponsor that I met that, he was a lot more intellectual than most people, and I'm very intellectual, and so sometimes it's hard to just kind of 90 and 90. It's like, okay, well, no, I need to kind of understand the whole thing. Like, what is this? But it was those different ways of thinking that made sense, and you see truth, I think, in certain people that kind of there's something there. And so I think that's very interesting. So as you're going along in this recovery process, you're in a halfway house. Like, what kind of happened next?
Well, I wanted to take a more active role. I mean, usually when I do something, I'm like all in. I'm like that in my business. I'm like that with my family. So when AA came around, and I had nothing else in my life at this point in time, keep in mind. I mean, I had just gotten out of jail. My family barely talked to me. I had no girlfriend, none of that stuff. I had nothing going for me. And I found this kind of community of people that accepted me, and we all had something in common. We all wanted to better our lives and grow spiritually. And what happened was I just committed, man. For the next 3 years, 3 years straight, I was sober. And then I had a drink. Never have gone back to drugs since 2003. Zero drug use at all. Or I'm sorry, since 2006. Excuse me. No drug use. But I had a drink, and then I ended up coming back, I think, kind of out of internal guilt. I felt like I was doing something really wrong. And a lot of what I think I really got from AA and recovery was this idea and this feeling of service. And we talked about this earlier before we got on the call, but see, to me, being of service was one of the biggest things that you do in recovery. They say, trust God, clean house, serve others, right? Yeah. So serving others was a massive, massive part of this. And in the 12th step, carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. I needed to find an outlet. And as soon as I left AA, I removed myself from all of these activities that helped me grow spiritually. And being of service is one of them. So and I don't know where else to go and find that. I didn't know at the time, but now I know that there's a lot of places that will help you grow spiritually. There's a lot of people that you can talk to that will help you grow closer, to the Creator. So that was what happened to me. Like I said, I still have a great deal of respect for AA. I would still say a handful of my friends are still sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. Really good friends. Everybody that was at my wedding, every single person was, at least on my guys, on the groomsmen side, we're all in recovery. So, it did save my life, but my goal was never really to sign up for a lifelong thing. Like, the only thing that I'm really signing up for the rest of my life is seeking this power greater than myself, not necessarily knowing or understanding it. And I want to learn from a lot of different people. I don't want to just learn from one side. And that's when I started kind of exploring other forms of spirituality and other forms of connecting and different types of meditations and, just meeting with other people. And I think the act of me doing that and the act of me being of service is what's really been instrumental in the overall growth of me while I'm on this planet.
Man, you're giving me chills, because that's like, I think that's why we're here right now, is to talk about these sort of things that, we've kind of had to take this path that's not well received in the recovery community. And it can be kind of scary. And it's kind of like, I like talking about what's truth. And my truth is once you get to another, a high enough level of, emotional fitness, intellectual fitness and spiritual fitness, that like you can kind of survive a lot, and you don't necessarily it's time to grow. And sometimes what got you to one place isn't, the people who got you here will not get you there. And so I myself have had to kind of look for other ways to do that. But if you look at the model of my, I went from like meetings to like masterminds, and I still, I even find the same problem at church. Like, I have to keep finding new ways and new levels to reach. And unless you're able to kind of let go of the old, you'll never find the new. And that was kind of me in my process.
I just want to mention, because you brought up a really good point. Like, for me and a sponsor at the time, your sponsor was like the main go-to person for everything. Well, I mean, the truth is there's not one guy on this planet that has all the things that I want for myself. So, but the one thing AA brought me to the understanding is that I do need mentors. So I need mentors in my business. I need mentors for my relationships. I need mentors to help me grow spiritually. I mean, there's not one single person that has all of those things that I'm trying to attain, right, for myself. So I need to, it really did open me up to working with other mentors. Now I have a business coach. I have a CPA, I have a financial advisor. I have somebody that we talk to about my wife's and my relationship. I have a spiritual advisor. I actually have multiple spiritual advisors. And because I love hearing different perspectives all the time. Like, there is no absolute, right? There's no absolute on this planet, but there's one absolute, if you follow me.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm not interested in absolutes, but I follow the one absolute. And that's all I'm really interested in these days is connecting with that source.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Nothing's all good or all bad. And when you look at the world that way, you go, okay, well, yeah, like this church or this religion or this recovery modality might have something, but like it's not one size fits all the time. And so the further you get away from those absolutes, it's kind of like you can grow more. And
it's just like labeling, it's not good or bad. It just is,
Exactly,
and there's a divine perfect reason why things are the way they are. And they're much bigger than we can probably comprehend. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So I just wrote an article a little while ago about like how coaches have transformed my life. And, I've been an entrepreneur for, 15 plus years, but most of those I was in active addiction. But I got used to reaching out to like, accountants, attorneys and stuff like that. But then when I got into recovery, I was pretty good at reaching out but it wasn't really until I met my first sponsor, I was like, they say one thing to you and it like changes your life. And that happens over a series of points. And then it's time to move on to someone else who maybe needs to take you to the next level and the next level. And part of my life is really based on that whole recovery thing where I have a business coach. You know, I have, you know, mentors. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. And some of them are more friends. But the thing is I have all these different categories, you know, from, you know, legal, finances, spiritual, that I can go in and go, hey, what should I do? And a lot of times it's just, you know, talking to being heard by someone, you know, because not everyone necessarily has to have the answer. I think we have a lot of our answers, but sometimes we have to like share. And that I learned in recovery, learning to be vulnerable, you know, to really telling people how you feel and what you want, and not trying to be different things to different people, because then you don't really get what's true and authentic to yourself, and you end up doing yourself a disservice. And so like, yeah, I totally get that. I'm right there with you on the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, and just because you're mentioning this, it dovetails in, is, you know, one major thing I really took away from recovery that I don't know how long it would take me without AA to have figured this out, but like really looking at my part in every single situation. So if there's any aspect or area of my life that I'm unhappy with, that there's nobody else to blame but myself. And I can always, being armed with that is so valuable, because my wife doesn't even have that, you know, like there are people that don't have that quality because they've never gone through an experience where like they've had that aha moment. But I do feel like I am 100% solely responsible for the way that I'm feeling. And all it takes is action, right? Action equals outcome. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I had a friend on Facebook that I used to use with, and I just saw before we got on the show that she let someone that was using drugs stay at their house, and they ended up getting robbed of their rent or something like that. And the post was I'm so stupid for doing this, and a lot of just derogatory things about themselves, and letting these people in their world. And it's like, that stuff is bad. And I used to say the same thing too, like, hey, I want you to feel sorry for me. But the reality is you're responsible for your reality, you know, and a lot of those things get manifested because when you tell yourself you're stupid, you're going to let stupid people into your life because that's acceptable. And then things like that happen. And so, but that's a hard thing to understand, you know, because it's more of a spiritual concept versus a material concept. And it's like, how do you teach it that? How do you package that up and give it to somebody to make their life a lot easier? And I don't know, it took me, 20 years of using to understand that.
Right. Well, no, I mean, this is really good. And you're bringing up now we're talking a little bit about spirituality, which is now my main, like that's my main focus these days. It's not to go in and talk about my addiction. It's really to go into a space where I can listen and be quiet and be okay with myself and give back. And that's just kind of where I am today. I've been studying a lot of different thought leaders, and the most recent book that I'm reading is called The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. It's a new thought. It's a new thought establishment, or new thought is kind of the theme in which they go off of. And it all focuses on your thoughts, and your thoughts become your reality, and how powerful thinking is, because whatever you're thinking, you're actually manifesting into reality. And when you hear it and when you read some of this stuff, I had this epiphany where I'm like, okay, if my thoughts become my reality, like literally I'm in constant prayer mode. If you were to define what a prayer is, because of the fact that I'm thinking, I'm manifesting. Because I'm thinking, I am like attracting or repelling, or whatever is going through my mind is literally spilling over into my reality. And it's extremely powerful. Once you figure that out, it's like, I don't know, to me, the things that I have created in my life, even if I were to tell you, like, you probably wouldn't even believe all the amazing shit that's happened. Like, it is unbelievable.
I agree. I mean, if you even, just the conversation we're having right now, two people that come from recovery connecting on like this sort of level that we talked for like a few minutes before, all we really knew is that like we were kind of both in recovery. And like, other than that, that's like just spiritual stuff. There is no explanation for it, that we're having this type of conversation in this moment right now. And in the intro, I have this, it's something, I'm probably going to mess up my own intro, but it says something along that every breath and every thought brings us to the moment right now. So all those breaths and thoughts that we had prior to this got us in this moment right now. And like, that's some profound stuff. And I think this is a great example of like exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, man. And it's something that I need to just kind of be aware of on a daily basis too. Like this, I like living like this. I like the life that I've created for myself and the life I've created for my children. And I know that I don't think it's something that I would literally lose overnight. And I don't ever have the intention or desire to stop moving forward. Like my desires and my goals and my dreams are so massive, they scare people. But that's why I'm where I am today, because I dream big, because I know that whatever I start manifesting, like anything I'm thinking about eventually comes to me in some form or another. So why not think like massive? Why not think like off the charts, massive? And even if half of the results come, hey, I've met halfway to this massive goal, which is still 10 times higher than most people. Like, people dream about having a 6-figure a year salary. Why would you stop there? Like, why would you just do that?
Yeah.
There's a guy, Elon Musk. I don't want to divert too long, but I do want to mention this guy, Elon Musk. If you don't know who he is, just Google him. He created PayPal. He's the CEO and founder of Tesla Motors, and he's now created SpaceX. But look at this guy. This is a guy who created PayPal, sold it for billions of dollars. Billions. So he could have just taken $1 billion and left. He's like, no, I'm not done. I want to impact the world in another way. I'm going to create the first electric car and sell it mainstream. So then he creates Tesla. Okay, makes another $1 billion. And during this process, too, he goes all the way from uber rich to super broke. Then he's like, all right, now I want to expand our horizons universally. I want to be able to make people living on Mars possible. This is a real, like, I'm not making this up, dude. And so inhabit, like, I think it's called Operation Occupy Mars or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he's created the first rocket. So now he owns a company called SpaceX, creates a rocket that shoots the shuttle up into the atmosphere, and then the rocket actually comes back down and lands where it took off, because the biggest issue with rockets is that they burn up in the atmosphere. So all the cost of developing a rocket literally gets thrown away as soon as it burns up in the atmosphere. So he's developed and put all of his riches into getting us as beings to be able to explore space. And it's incredible. But like, somebody would think, oh, after I make $6 billion, I'm just going to stop. I'll just buy the boat in the house, and I've got all the things, I've got all the money in the world I need. But there's a difference, I think, between being satisfied and being fulfilled. And I think that's where I thrive, man, is when I'm like, dude, it's one thing to be fulfilled, but it's another thing to be satisfied, right? Mm-hmm. So sorry about that rant, but I wanted to give you guys like just kind of a comparison, because there's no reason why I have to think small anymore. I used to think very, very small. Like, if I could just get the girl, if I could just get that Honda Civic, if I could just have and it was very materialistic, if I could just have these relationships back, as soon as I stopped thinking like that and I expanded my thought, I live in a house. I have a wife and 2 beautiful children. I have, all the cool toys in the world. I have a thriving business. Dude, life is like, I would be selling myself short if I would have said 3 years ago, hey, this is what I want. And I would have had it in 6 months, So don't sell yourself short. If you guys are listening, think big, think massive, and align yourself with people that understand that thought process.
I love that, because that's the purpose of this show. It's, squaring your recovery is, recovery times recovery, not just recovery by itself. It's like, what sort of things, people and things and thoughts can you, square your life? And really, it's infinite. We have infinite potential. And so why not realize that and put your thoughts there? Because they can manifest. I mean, you always think like, the first guy to go to the moon or had the idea. It's like to everyone else, he's crazy, but it turned out to be possible, or going to Mars, or, personal space travel, or what have you. I mean, the universe is infinite. So why don't we think more along those lines?
And it all started with some guy in a thought. Some guy had this idea, this thought literally in his mind of like, I'm going to build this thing that can fly around the world, or I'm going to build a mobile phone. I'm going to create a device that allows us to communicate to each other thousands and thousands of miles away from each other. Whoever invented this literally broke space and time. But it all starts, all the cool technologies, everything that we have today, all starts from a thought. That's it. So the thought is critical. Why not? Why think small when you can think big? Because now everything's growing at a much more exponential rate, and technology is making these things come to life faster. I mean, I don't want in my business is, if you think about my model and what a lot of people are doing, it's like I'm not making a massive impact, but that's not my long-term goal. My long-term goal is to make a massive impact. Billions of people I would like to impact in a positive way. That would be a long-term goal of mine.
That's awesome, man. I'll be right there to help you. What do you think about, we're talking a lot about thoughts, and, when I first read Eckhart Tolle's book on the power of now, I was kind of like, wow, I got done reading that book and I was like, wow, I think this whole addiction thing, that's really gone. Because I know for me, they say addiction is the disease of feelings. Feelings come from thoughts. And so if you can learn to manage those, then you're doing a lot to recover yourself. What do you think about the power in the thought in terms of addiction?
Yeah, man, this is definitely controversial. Like, if my AA buddies hear this, they're gonna give me crap. I do believe that with enough time, there are certain patterns that can be broken, or there are new patterns that can be developed. I think a lot of that has to do with my goals, my why, right? So like when I reached a point in my recovery, I was a couple years sober, and my mentor, Brian Ong, he wasn't my sponsor, but he was a really good friend and mentor of mine. He said, Aaron, man, he's like, now that you're sober, and that's the hardest thing you've ever had to do up until this point in life, is just get sober. And it was, man. That first chunk of time was difficult, nail-biting, gut-wrenching. But he's like, dude, now that you've got that and you're helping, you're like on the right trajectory, now what do you want to do? And I'm like, what do I want to do? And I had to like really sit down and get clear on that. Well, I wanted to build my business. I wanted to expand. So the answer ended up coming to me in the form of college. And he was like, this guy was such an awesome dude. He actually helped me financially a little bit. He didn't give me money, but he afforded me to get into college. And that was huge turning point in my life. But once I had those bigger goals in mind, the little, ideas of me getting loaded at a bar or going out, like my goals were much bigger than that. It wasn't as important to me as this big goal that I'm really focused on, this trajectory that I'm on. I think a lot of people, and what I've realized and noticed in recovery is like a lot of people, they come in and they don't have any hobbies. They don't have anything else going for them except all they used to do is get loaded, because that's how I used to do it. So like I had to like not only break the pattern of not getting loaded, but now I have to like identify myself in this world. What do I actually like? What can I do sober? What can I eat sober? What can I, and you're like kind of living for the first time. And one of the big things that I wanted all my sponsors to do is I wanted them to find a hobby. Like, what is your hobby? And I'm not talking about job. I'm talking about what can you do you can output mentally and physically with your hands or whatever, just something you're interested in, anything. What is it? And dude, it was crazy because some of them just couldn't. They didn't have anything. Like, I guess I'm interested in refrigerators. Like one guy said he was interested in refrigerators and like how they work, and he wanted to work for a refrigerating company. I'm like, listen, I'm not talking about how you want to work in your workplace. I'm talking about what are you going to do extracurricularly to expand your mind. So one of the things that I did, and this is just something that I did, nobody told me to do, I just felt compelled to, is I was going to learn something new every month. So my garage is like, dude, I've got every freaking toy you can imagine that's like hand-eye coordination. So nice. I got juggling clubs, I do a little bit of fire spinning sometimes. Like I only do these things like for a month. I learn them. I wouldn't say I master them, but I'm exercising this part of my mind that requires me to learn. So like I recently got into archery. Archery is kind of my newer thing. It's not as violent as shooting a handgun, but I like going to the range and I like the motion and everything that's involved in that. But dude, so finding hobbies, exploring and learning new things, like there's so much more to life than getting loaded and doing that once I really tapped into that, I'm like, oh my gosh, plus I got Google on my phone. I can just be like, hey, how do I make this baked ziti? Okay, tonight I'm gonna learn how to make baked ziti. Like, I don't know, man, life just seems to get so much more interesting when you actually are like applying and using your brain. So I encourage anybody to like, dude, get a hobby, and not just one hobby. Like, do it and find something else and find something else. Like, you've got time and you've got the ability and you're sober, so you might as well.
Right. I mean, the way I look at it is I often tell people that I don't know what one thing worked for me, but I know all of them did. And a lot of what I'm doing is very similar to what you're doing. And what it's doing is it's creating new neural pathways. It's like you had these well-worn ruts inside your brain, and we're basically just taking a plow by learning different things. And that could be everything from handstands to baking to a lot of the hobbies you're talking about. And it just it just recreates different pathways and different ways of thinking. That's really easy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I would encourage anyone to do that. You know, if you haven't found a hobby, if you're not doing something for yourself that has nothing to do with money or anything else, just something for yourself that you enjoy, just start exploring all those things. And Google's like one of my best friends. I start everything on Google and YouTube. You know, I watch a video on something and, it inspires me to go check it out. Unfortunately, hobbies do cost money, some of them. Right. So that's like one downfall. But honestly, think about the money you're saving from not getting loaded, right? So like I would spend ridiculous amounts of money doing really stupid shit, where now it's like, okay, I can spend even a quarter of that and do something fun and, exercise my brain a little bit. Yeah,
I get that. One of the cheap things I do is just walking barefoot. That it grounds me, and there's something when you're alternating the different sides of your body and the sensory. So like it's as simple as that, and right. So I love it. If there was one thing that you could do to square your recovery, what would that be?
Man, one thing I think is difficult, just to give you one answer, because I think that what's happened to me has been through a series of different events and experiences, right? My first default answer would be meditation, but now that I actually think about it, I think I already answered it, which is experiences. I would encourage people to go out and have as many life experiences as possible. Feel things, because when I was using, it was about numbing. It was about taking feelings out of it. So now being able to feel warmth, feel cold, I'll take a cold shower sometimes just to feel it, experience things that you've never experienced before. And what will happen is you're going to start growing in ways that you never could have, because now you have this new experience that you can add to your tool belt. I would say meditation, because meditation I think is absolutely critical. And it helps me a lot. My meditations are like this, though. My meditations are like 60 seconds. Nice. I'll bang a meditation out, and it's amazing what I can do. And I think a lot of it's because I've invested time doing, 30-minute long meditations before. So it's easy for me to slip in really fast. But even meditation, that's an experience. Yes. Try not meditating. That's an experience. Try meditating with your shirt off, outside in the cold. Try having these experiences that are just things that you've never done before. And I think once you realize, oh my gosh, there's this amazing world out there, and I get to be a part of it, it's a hell of a lot more exciting than getting loaded.
It is. Yeah.
Seriously, there's so much more. There's just so much to life. And, I'm grateful, man. Every day I used to say this in the meetings too, but I sometimes still feel like, whose life am I living? I'm living such an amazing life. I'm like, I should be arrested for impersonating an awesome dude.
Right.
Because I feel like an awesome dude.
Yeah.
And that's not arrogant. That's because I am a freaking awesome dude, man. And I love it, dude. I love who I am today. And I wouldn't be where I am without all the experiences that I've had. So get out of the grind of the bubble or the monotony of the repetition and go out and experience something new. And again, like we said earlier, there is no good or bad, man. It just is what it is. It just is. We are. So be and do is what my sponsor used to say to me. Be and do. Just be and then do.
Yeah, I get it.
And I can identify with that. It's super simple. That would be it, man. Experiences. Have as many as you can and enjoy every single one of them, good or bad or indifferent.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that. And there's probably a million different things or directions we could go in, and we'll probably have to have you back. And, I'd love to sit down and talk to you about meditation and the different types of meditations and all that. 'Cause that's a whole nother, we probably do a whole show just on the different types of meditations that are out there. And it's almost mind boggling, but it's such an awesome tool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Aaron. I appreciate you and everything you're doing, man. It's good stuff, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for thinking of me and having me, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right, man.
See ya.
That show was awesome. The show notes will be available on recoverysquared.com with all the links to the different things we discussed on this show. And just as Aaron expressed in the way he squared his recovery was to have new experiences, I have to tell you that this podcast is an experience in and of itself. It's helped me square my recovery, and I feel so blessed that I get to create a platform that serves others. I want you to ask yourself in this moment, what experiences can you create right now? Tomorrow? Or later this year that will help you get to your next level? I want to share with you what is possible, and I have created some resources to help inspire new experiences in your life. Visit recoverysquared.com and click on the Access Now button, and I will send you some other tools to help you get to your next level using some of the things we covered on this show. The first thing I will send you is a free one-on-one coaching call with me where we will get clear on getting you to your next level. This is truly an experience in its own right, and it will not last long, so act quickly. Second, I have a framework to send you that illustrates the Recovery Squared belief process in a road to transformation. And third, we are building a community around Recovery Squared. And when you sign up, you can be added to our exclusive secret Facebook group where we can connect with other tribe members. I want to build relationships and build our tribe, so I'm excited for you to be a part of our community. I love you and so grateful for you listening and supporting Recovery Squared. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.